Pisces, the Four of Swords is a deliberate pause, not an empty one. This week asks you to stop treating rest as the space left over after everything else has taken what it wants. Your mind, body, and intuition may need less input before they can give you a trustworthy answer. Recovery is part of the work. Your card for August 5th through August 11th is Four of Swords. The central message is that rest becomes powerful when it is protected before exhaustion makes it unavoidable. The shadow expression would be withdrawing without actually recovering because the mind remains available to every demand. The wiser expression is creating true pauses, reducing stimulation, and allowing insight to emerge after the nervous system has settled. This is not a prediction that one literal event must occur. It is a decision-making lens for recognizing the pattern when it appears. On August 6th, Venus enters Libra and moves through your 8th house of intimacy, trust, shared resources, endings, and emotional transformation. Venus brings attention to attraction, values, harmony, and the quality of exchange. Through the lens of Four of Swords, this transit asks you to notice what becomes more appealing when you are acting from self-respect rather than habit. Let beauty and connection support the lesson of the card, but do not use harmony to avoid the truth the card is revealing. On August 9th, Mercury enters Leo and activates your 6th house of work, routines, health, service, and the systems that shape your days. Mercury changes the way information moves, how decisions are framed, and what needs to be spoken or understood. For Pisces, this can help translate the message of Four of Swords into language and practical choices. Use the transit to ask better questions, clarify assumptions, and give the central lesson of the reading a form you can act on. On August 11th, Mars enters Cancer and moves into your 5th house of creativity, romance, pleasure, courage, and self-expression. Mars brings drive, friction, courage, and the desire to act. Its energy can help you implement the lesson of Four of Swords, but it may also tempt you to rush before the emotional meaning is understood. Direct the energy toward one constructive action in this area rather than allowing irritation or urgency to choose for you. The deeper invitation of Four of Swords is not to perform the card's most familiar keyword. It is to notice the choice beneath it. For Pisces, that choice may appear in the space between instinct and response. You may already understand this situation intellectually, but the week asks whether your behavior reflects that understanding. Watch for the moment when an old reflex offers immediate relief. That moment is not a failure, it is the doorway into a different decision. Also notice what you are tempted to make this card mean about your identity. Four of Swords describes an energy and a lesson, not a permanent definition of who you are. You can work with its message without turning it into a verdict. The most useful question is not, "Why am I like this?" It is, what response would make this pattern less powerful by the end of the week? In love, the Four of Swords may indicate a need for space, gentler pacing, or a pause in repetitive conflict. Venus entering your 8th house can deepen intimacy and bring attention to trust, vulnerability, and shared resources. Rest does not mean emotional disappearance. Tell the other person what kind of space you need and when you expect to reconnect. At work, Mercury entering your 6th house supports organization, scheduling, and practical problem solving. Use that clarity to reduce cognitive load. Document a process, close unnecessary tabs, group similar tasks, or create a boundary around communication. Efficiency should create breathing room, not simply make room for more work. Financially, Venus in your 8th house can highlight shared expenses, support, debt, or resources available through partnership. Review these calmly. The Four of Swords advises against making a major choice while depleted. Gather the information, sleep, and return when your nervous system is less likely to confuse urgency with truth. For health and energy, take fatigue seriously before turning it into a personal failure. Mars entering your 5th house may later restore creative and playful drive, but the transition can also reveal how long you have postponed enjoyment. Recovery may include laughter, art, music, or gentle pleasure, not only sleep. Wednesday is for reducing input. Choose one source of noise to pause for the day and notice what your mind does with the space. Thursday, Venus enters Libra and your 8th house. Approach intimacy or shared money with softness, honesty, and enough time to think. Friday asks for a real stopping point. End work, conversation, or scrolling at a chosen time rather than waiting to collapse. Saturday favors deep restoration. Let rest include beauty, music, water, creativity, or a place where your body can soften. Sunday, Mercury enters Leo and your 6th house. Organize one routine so that future you has fewer decisions to make. Monday is for listening after quiet. Write down the thought that remains when the louder thoughts have passed. Tuesday, Mars enters Cancer and your 5th house. Re-enter action through play, creativity, romance, or joy rather than returning immediately to obligation. Here are your 3 journal prompts. Where is the lesson of Four of Swords already visible in my life, even if I have not named it? What would change if I practiced this week's central truth, that rest becomes powerful when it is protected before exhaustion makes it unavoidable, in one concrete situation? Which response would allow me to respect both my feelings and my future? Your weekly guidance is this: create a daily 20-minute protected pause with no phone, messages, work, news, or problem solving. Sit, walk slowly, stretch, or rest. Keep a card nearby and write only one sentence afterward. After quiet, I notice. Do this for at least 5 days. On Tuesday, review the sentences and look for the need that repeated. Do not use the exercise to create another standard you can fail. Use it to collect evidence. The purpose is to make the message of Four of Swords visible in behavior, because insight becomes trustworthy when it changes one real decision. Pisces, this week does not require a dramatic reinvention. It asks for one honest correction repeated consistently. You may notice that the old pattern still speaks loudly, but volume is not authority. Let the card become a lens rather than a label. Let the astrology provide timing and context rather than certainty. Most of all, let your next action become proof that awareness is already changing the way you move. One more layer deserves attention. This card can become distorted when you try to solve its lesson through performance alone. A polished response may look convincing while leaving the deeper pattern untouched. This week, measure progress by what becomes simpler, more honest, and more sustainable after the decision. Notice whether your body relaxes when you tell the truth, whether your schedule becomes more coherent when you choose a priority, and whether your relationships become clearer when you stop managing every possible reaction. The card is not asking for perfection. It is asking for congruence between what you know, what you say, and what you repeatedly do. One more layer deserves attention. This card can become distorted when you try to solve its lesson through performance alone. A polished response may look convincing while leaving the deeper pattern untouched. This week, measure progress by what becomes simpler, more honest, and more sustainable after the decision. Notice whether your body relaxes when you tell the truth, whether your schedule becomes more coherent when you choose a priority, and whether your relationships become clearer when you stop managing every possible reaction. The card is not asking for perfection. It is asking for congruence between what you know, what you say, and what you repeatedly do. One more layer deserves attention. This card can become distorted when you try to solve its lesson through performance alone. A polished response may look convincing while leaving the deeper pattern untouched. This week, measure progress by what becomes simpler, more honest, and more sustainable after the decision. Notice whether your body relaxes when you tell the truth, whether your schedule becomes more coherent when you choose a priority, and whether your relationships become clearer when you stop managing every possible reaction. The card is not asking for perfection. It is asking for congruence between what you know, what you say, and what you repeatedly do. The Four of Swords also asks you to distinguish solitude from disappearance. True restoration leaves you more available to life. Avoidance makes returning feel heavier. Give your pause a beginning, a purpose, and an end. Tell people when you are unavailable, decide what you are protecting the time for, and choose a gentle point of re-entry. This structure allows rest to remain restorative rather than becoming another source of uncertainty. You are not abandoning your responsibilities when you recover. You are returning to them with a nervous system capable of making cleaner choices. Before Tuesday, protect one pause on the calendar as firmly as you would protect an obligation to someone else. Begin and end it intentionally. Notice whether your breathing, attention, and inner voice change afterward. That evidence will help you recognize rest as maintenance rather than absence. Your affirmation for this week is, I protect the quiet that restores me, and I trust what becomes clear after rest. Carry that with you through August 11th. Subscribe so your next weekly reading is waiting for you. Trust the timing. The stars have spoken.